for a serial bomber in Texas. We are about to get an update from authorities in Schertz, Texas. That is scheduled now to begin about 5 minutes from now. The preliminary introductions you just saw were only that, preliminary. This after another blast rocked the state, the 5th this month alone. Good morning to you. I'm John Scott.
And I'm Julie Banderas. The FBI and the ATF both on the scene right now at a FedEx distribution center near San Antonio. That's where a package exploded just after midnight. And then hours later, it sent a police team and hazmat team to a FedEx facility in Austin to check on a suspicious package there. All this while the feds say the San Antonio blast is likely linked somehow to the string of deadly bombings in the Austin area. 4 blasts in all across the Texas capital, killing 2 people and injuring 4 others since March 2nd. And local police now coordinating with the feds on the investigation.
Multiple agencies here, from governmental to municipality, and we're just trying to work together to, get some answers and find out what's going on.
Chief Correspondent Jonathan Hunt is live in Austin, Texas right now. Jonathan.
John, a lot of fear, a lot of dread in communities across Texas, obviously centered here in Austin, but now spreading to the San Antonio region after this explosion overnight at a huge FedEx facility in Schertz, which is essentially a suburb of San Antonio, about 70 miles from Austin, where the other 4 explosions have taken place. A source with the ATF telling me today that they are obviously looking at that explosion in the light of the investigation of the 4 others. And while they can't definitively link it at this point, they say obviously given the geographical proximity to Austin and the proximity in terms of timing to the other bombings that we have seen this month, they are looking at it very closely and in that context. One woman, a worker at that FedEx facility, complained of a hearing issue after the explosion, but they do not consider it an injury. That is the good news from that FedEx facility overnight, that nobody was seriously hurt in any way. But it's obviously put everybody on edge when you add in the Sunday night bombing right where I'm standing now in Austin, the explosion taking place just behind me here. 2 young men setting off an almost invisible tripwire explosion. Both of those men seriously injured. We hear today that they are in stable condition in the hospital. The grandfather of one of them talked about the injuries they suffered. Listen here.
Both of them were kind of bleeding profusely, and he kind of tried to stop some of the bleeding on them, and then they called 911 real quick. I don't know if my son called it or my grandson called it, one of the 2. And before long, the police and stuff were everywhere.
So now we have had a series of 5 explosions, 4 of them here in Austin, as you mentioned, beginning on March 2nd. And the ones in Austin, as you look at, if you can look at a map of Austin, they've gone in a kind of clockwise direction from the northeast. Whether that indicates any sort of pattern that can help investigators as they try to track down whomever might be responsible for these, we don't know. And whether the authorities have any real idea of who might be behind this, we don't know either. They may have some more clues that they are not telling us to keep the investigation secure, as is often the case in this. Obviously, they are looking for somebody with a fair degree of skills at building not just explosive devices, but the trigger mechanisms. The package bombs, when you build those, often you find that they explode before they're put in place. None of those have. The 4 all appeared to go off where they were intended to. And then on Sunday night, this tripwire bomb, another level of sophistication on top of that. So clearly the feds here and local police looking for somebody who very much knows what they're doing. There have been deaths, as you mentioned, and they want to get this person before anybody else is killed. John.
I know authorities, Jonathan, have been keeping information pretty close to the vest. They said the initial bombings were packages left on people's doorsteps, and we're just getting ready for this news conference to begin. I'm going to go ahead and finish this question, and when the officials step up to the microphones, We'll take you back there live. But I'm just wondering, did they ever say, were those FedEx boxes? I know they were not delivered by FedEx, but were they left in FedEx boxes? Do we know?
We don't know what the packaging around them exactly was, but all of those, as far as we know, were actually hand-delivered, not actually placed by any delivery service. In other words, they seem to be suggesting that the person who made the bombs probably was the one who dropped them off, but we don't know that definitively at that point. But we do know that this one going through the FedEx facility and exploding overnight was the first one to be found at any kind of delivery service facility. So you now have three methods: the hand drop-off on the doorsteps, the FedEx facility bomb, and the tripwire bomb. That is why everybody is so on edge here, because authorities admit they simply don't know how and where this bomber will next strike. John.
Jonathan, it's Julie. It's interesting because the tripwire bomb, that was the fourth bomb in Austin, and officials had said that it was significantly more advanced in technology, filled with shrapnel and so forth. This one, though, if it were indeed a tripwire, wondering how it was actually detonated. A tripwire obviously has to be detonated by a victim who then pulls on some kind of shoestring or something that's sort of the size of a piece of dental floss, if you will. Any idea what detonated this thing? Because it was meant to go to Austin, so obviously it detonated prematurely.
Yeah, this appears to have been another package bomb, and the logic would lead you to say that it probably just got set off through being knocked in some sort of way. We know it was on a conveyor belt. It was perhaps moving from one level of a conveyor belt to another, and something triggered it. The first bomb to go off, as far as we know, and indeed if it is confirmed to be linked to the other four, the first one to explode, not, we believe, where it was supposed to explode. So this might be the only one that has had some error in the making of it. But those, obviously, package bombs are always somewhat unstable, and if they get knocked in some way, they can explode. That would appear logically to be what happened here overnight, Julie. But again, we may get more details at this news conference that is about to start. We may get a definitive link to the other four, but they haven't confirmed it at this point, Julie.
One gets the impression, Jonathan, that the bomber or bombers is sort of toying with authorities at this point. The initial bombs, again, left on specific doorsteps, specific victims, it would seem. Perhaps, you know, one of those people, or maybe all of those people, was intended to be the victim. And then you come to the tripwire Sunday night, just a package left by the side of the road that would get anybody walking by. Now you get a package left in the FedEx delivery system that you know, detonated prematurely, apparently. It would just seem that the bomber is kind of trying to throw police off of the trail, or just give them, you know, more problems actually to try to handle.
Yeah, and moving from one method of delivery of the explosive device to another, it's certainly keeping everybody on their toes. The interesting thing about the Sunday night tripwire bomb here, where I'm standing as well, is that it was placed, it appears, just hours after the authorities had appealed to the bomber to come forward and communicate his or her message to them. It seemed in itself a very strong message saying, I am here, I am not going to speak to you, what I'm going to do is keep planting these explosive devices. So at the moment, if the authorities have any idea who this is, they're not telling us, John. Obviously, you would expect them to play this very carefully. Indeed, there's certain bits of information they don't want to give to us because that might tip off the bomber or bombers that they are getting closer to him, her, or them. So they're playing it very carefully, but they're very concerned at just how sophisticated these devices are, the varied methods now of delivery of explosives, and as I say, they simply don't know where this person might strike next, John.
Jonathan Hunt in Austin, thank you. Let's check in with the news conference now.
An employee who reported an injury was evaluated on site and then released. At this time, however, the scene and area are secured and the investigation is continuing. The safety of the employees and the public has been, is, and remains our principal focus. Pertinent to the focus on public safety, the City of Schertz is engaged and is working in cooperation with the FBI and the ATF. Here with me this morning are my Chief of Police, Michael Hansen, Assistant Special Agent in Charge, James Smith from the FBI, and Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Frank Ortega from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. At this time, I'd like to recognize our Chief of Police, Michael Hansen, who will provide you with some additional information. Chief?
Good morning. At approximately 12:25 this morning, an explosion was called in to the police department. It occurred at the facility at 9935 Dewar Lane. Members of the Schertz Police, Fire, and EMS responded and determined that in fact an explosion had occurred. Shortly thereafter, members of the San Antonio Police Department Bomb Unit, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the FBI arrived as well. A package had been traveling along the automated conveyor when it had exploded. One employee that was standing near the explosion later complained of ringing in the ears. She was treated and released. We were very fortunate that there were no injuries. It's very early in the investigation, obviously, but we're confident that neither this facility nor any location in the Schertz area was a target. With that said, I need to reiterate the message that we've heard so often recently, that if you have a package that was not expected, if you are suspicious of the return address, if you come across any suspicious object, do not touch it, do not move it, but contact 911. I wish to take this opportunity to thank the assistance provided by the FBI, the BATF, Texas Department of Public Safety, the San Antonio Police Department, the Bexar County Sheriff's Office, as well as the resources that have been provided by the Southwest Texas Regional Advisory Council and the BCFS Emergency Management. Now I'll open it for questions.
Did the package come from the FedEx store on Brody Lane? The FBI and the ATF are there right now in Austin. Did the package just come from there?
Well, we currently can't go into the details of the package. It's still under investigation. We just arrived pretty much, and we're entering the building as we speak.
How do you guys know the package was supposedly from Austin then? Was it the label?
I can't say what the package was destined for, but again, we're still under investigation.
Can this be the work of a copycat just because it was sent directly into something like this?
Well, that's what we're working on right now. We're trying to understand what actually happened. We're trying to surf through the evidence and let the evidence take us to where we need to go.
Will you confirm that the package contained nails and shrapnel?
Again, we're still looking into it. We're still early on. It happened late last night, and we arrived early in the morning, so we're still working on it.
Do you suspect this is connected to the serial bomber in Austin?
We do not know at this point right now.
Can you confirm that it had nails and shrapnel?
I'm sorry?
Can you confirm that the package had nails and shrapnel?
No, I cannot confirm that right now.
Can you compare this to
We can't compare them right now because, again, we just entered the building just recently. We had to make sure the building was safe before we could go in. So we're still at the early stages.
Can you tell us the size of the package?
We can't confirm that right now. Again, we've just entered the building.
What time is it that wasn't targeted for anyone here?
We just entered the building. We're trying to understand that right now. But right now, we have no indications that there's any issues or threats to the public here in Schertz.
Can you tell us the size of the package and if there's any evidence left for you to actually gather?
I can't go into the details of that right now.
Is there anything new you can add?
Yeah.
It's still an ongoing investigation, and we can't provide that information at this time.
Are there employees in the facility still? Are they kept there, or have they been released?
All the precautions have been taken, necessary precautions that have been taken, and right now investigators are conducting their investigation.
How much delivery is being served?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
How long will your
Well, we're working with the various delivery companies right now with the ongoing investigation. They have their security procedures and protocols, so they're doing the normal steps with security and protocols, but we are working with them on the regular packages throughout the day.
Can you describe, is this FedEx facility offline right now? Is this FedEx facility operating in any way, or do people have to wait for the packages to come in?
Again, we're working with a delivery company right now about the packages that are in there. Again, we just we just entered the building, so the building has been evacuated, and we are ensuring that it is safe to go forward.
Sir, what can you tell us? Can you tell people who may be concerned that it may be connected and they're genuinely scared? We go from East Austin to Southwest Austin to now north of San Antonio. What can you tell people to keep them from panicking?
This is a very fluid investigation, and we want the general public to know that their safety is our #1 priority. So we encourage anybody in the public that has information to call our tip line, 512-472-TIPS. If they have any information, all leads will be pursued and investigated. Again, public safety is our #1 priority.
Well, and I understand, hang on, sir, I understand you've said that before, but you have 500 federal agents here in Central and South Texas, and this has still happened. How can you calm people's fears? You have more than 500 federal agents. The ATF is telling our investigative unit this is the ATF's top priority, but another explosion has happened. What can you do to calm people's fears?
We have agents from across the country. We have our national response team here. We got canine explosive detection canines here. We have intel research specialists. We're working hand in hand with our FBI partners, state and local partners. We've been working around the clock. Again, the public safety is our #1 priority, and we're providing all the resources that we can to finally find the person or individuals responsible for this.
Are you confident you'll be able to pull the name that was on the package?
Again, we can't go into that right now. We're still trying to surf through the evidence. So we're still at the early stages of this particular event here, as part of the investigation.
Do you all have new evidence thanks to this package and maybe some surveillance video? What kind of evidence do you have now that you didn't have?
We can't go into the evidence that we do have, but again, we've just approached this building. I mean, we're only 3 or 4 hours into this. First, the priority was to render this building safe, so the agents can go in and conduct the investigation and gather the evidence. So we are still we're going to be here for a little while.
Were there any other packages found while y'all were looking through the facility?
I'm sorry?
Anything else while you're looking through the facility?
We have not actually done a search yet.
What about the one at the facility, FedEx facility in Austin by the airport? Is that connected at all? Do we know yet?
I'm unaware of that, what happened over there.
Well, there's agents there too. So there's agents at this. You guys are here, and then there's agents also at FedEx facilities back in Austin. Why are you guys there? Do you know why you guys are there?
No, I don't know personally why we're there.
What happens to all the packages here now? People are asking what do they do if they want to pick up a package here or if they've got something coming from here?
Well, we're asking people not to come here right now because we're still a crime scene. We're still searching
One more question.
We're still searching the packages and all to ensure that there is no other devices there. So we're asking people just be patient, and if they know of something, definitely call your local FBI, your local ATF, or your local police department and report it. We need the public's help right now.
What's the plan for FedEx employees? Those that were evacuated this morning, those who may have to report to work, what's the plan?
You'd have to contact FedEx on that one.
What kind of damage did you guys see inside?
Again, like I said earlier, we just don't know right now. Okay, what's going on?
What do you know? Because you've given us a whole bunch of we don't know. So what can you tell us?
We can tell you that the public safety is our #1 priority, and we're following all leads that we receive, and that's why we encourage the general public to help us out and provide any information that they may have by, again, calling our tip line.
Can you say how it got there?
One last question,
What are
please.
you telling shipping employees regarding their safety?
One at a time, please.
What caused that?
This is an ongoing investigation. I can't get into the details of that right now.
It was reported that it went from one conveyor belt to another. Can you confirm that?
No, I can't confirm that at all right now.
Did the employees
Thank you.
handle it?
Have a good day.
What are y'all's names? Can we get y'all's names again? Can we get y'all's names? What were their names again?
I'll go over the names and their spelling.
Just keep in mind that this is a very fluid situation, and there are a lot of questions that were addressed. And based on the magnitude of this investigation, we're looking at all of our resources, and we're encouraging that the public provide any information, provide videos.
All right, so a lot more questions than answers at that news conference in Schertz, Texas. A FedEx facility was processing packages at about 12:25 this morning when one of them exploded. An employee working nearby complained of hearing loss, but other than that, no injuries. Authorities are investigating. Of course, this is not terribly far from Austin, Texas, the city that has been bedeviled by 4 explosions in recent weeks. Obviously, authorities are trying to get their hands around what's going on, but they didn't give us a whole lot of information about what they know about